Hello, Namaskar. I'm Asta Sharma and your host for Work the Talk, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of work, workplace trends, and the people who are shaping the future of work. I have a very, very special guest with me today, and that is Captain Gaurav Bajetha. Captain Gaurav is presently the Vice President and Global Head of Workplace Administration, Infrastructure, Trust, and Safety at Urban Company. He manages his portfolio across 54 cities in India, Singapore, and UAE. Captain Gaurav, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Asta. Pleasure to be here.
It's great to have you here. And before we dive deep into our discussion, I'd like to give a bit more of flavor to who Captain Gaurav is. He, of course, as mentioned, he works at the Urban Company and he has been there for about 4 years, right, Captain?
Yeah, 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah, so where he has been at the forefront of strategizing and reimagining the workplace and risk management at the startup. In his role, he also manages the trust and safety function, which includes overseeing LERT, operational risks, and crisis response for more than 50,000 UC partners. Quite a lot to manage, I'm sure, and he has a lot on his shoulders. Prior to Urban Company, Captain Gaurav has worked with CBRE India, and he has also served in the Indian Army's Gorkha Rifles for 5 years. He is passionate about new workplace trends, risk management, and dynamic startup environments. He anchors the veteran hiring program at Urban Company. He has had a truly impressive journey, and we're excited to hear more about his insights today. Are we not? So, Captain,
Thank you.
over to you now. We'd like to hear a little more about you, and then I'll jump right into the questions.
Thank you, Asta, and thanks again for having me over. It's always very interesting talking to you. I've had the opportunity to meet you face to face in one of the last events that where is hosted. Very, very well hosted event, relevant topic around access control, data, and the emerging trends in workplace enterprise systems. And yeah, so about me, I think you've already thank you for giving such a detailed introduction. I'm particularly, keen to have conversations with everybody who wants to kind of, understand the new workplace. There's a lot of talk around, life before COVID and life after COVID, and how the workplaces and how organizations have changed, pre-COVID and post-COVID. And I think it is a very, very important topic because yes, things have particularly changed. And I was fortunate enough to be, at Urban Company around that time. So, I was part of, the COVID task force, which just not managed the whole crisis and, in a way kept the whole organization together during the tough times. But also then, once the storm weathered away, we also created the strategy of getting people back to work.
Yeah.
And I think perhaps that was like the first time when all the organizations, I can say that, actually did an exercise like that, where everybody was sent home in one shot,
Yeah.
go home, work from home, and then had to like really reimagine the workplace and how should we like really create a workplace to get our employees back. So
Yeah.
like that was, I think, the most interesting part of my time at Urban Company. Like, one, obviously the COVID crisis itself, because that crisis was in itself a huge opportunity to step up and like really help people and literally save lives. You usually
Yeah.
don't get to do that when when you live as a civilian. Like as a Fauji, yes, you do have those encounters, but as a civilian, I think that's a
Yeah.
huge opportunity, and which I must say that all the the security as well as the facility management and workplace professionals like really stepped up during that time. And probably this is, I strongly believe that this is the time where organizations actually stood up and took notice of the contributions that this part of the function really has to the org, right? And
Absolutely. Yeah.
it it really gave a seat on the table to professionals like me and so many like me around just not being a support function, but also like really being enablers to business, and businesses started seeing you as like people who are going to be important and times of crisis and
Yeah,
business continuity, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Actually, yeah, this the same thing, whenever I talk to a lot of people, I do feel that workplace enablers are one of the most resilient lots that I think any company has seen, because a lot of functions, of course, changed and they had to manage the remoteness of the situation. But for workplace leaders, everything changed, right? So entire function changed overnight, and to be able to cope up with that, of course, I don't think it would have been possible without the resilience of the kinds that lately I've been interacting with, and it's so inspiring. And you, of course, as you said that we met at the event, and for the listeners, I'd like to tell he was the most energetic and most inspiring, and I think the most young and new age thoughts were coming from him, and that's exactly what we're hoping that he's going to deliver, and I'm sure he will, because that's what he's made of. So you talked about COVID. You talked about the sudden change that happened. Now that people say that storm has passed, we are back to old times. The reports say that the mobility is back to normal, but truly is it? Of course, people are back to office. Many of them still aren't, but the reports say that everything is open, so on and so forth. The numbers say that. But even though people are coming back to the office, do you feel that people are working just the same, or are operating, or their expectations are just the same from the workplace, or have they changed? What are your views on it?
I don't think the world is ever going to be the same place that it was pre-COVID. Like I told you earlier, there's a world pre-COVID and there's a world after COVID. And
Yeah,
what COVID, the changes that COVID like brought about are not going to be undone.
yeah,
Simple examples like acceptance of hybrid working models, oblique work from home
yeah,
by companies. How work from home was looked at pre-COVID and
yeah,
how it is looked at now. It is like it's been normalized, right? Working from home, wellness at work, like it was hardly talked about before
yeah,
COVID, right?
yeah,
Organizations, most of the organizations did not care much about employees' wellness at work. Is it the
yeah,
same now? It's never going to be the same again. Like wellness plays such an important part of any workplace strategy right now. Like having the right workplace to encourage your employees to come back to work. Like I think the workplace, the workforce itself, kind of, I think the realization of the workforce on what do we need in our lives. Like there is so much of research around people investing more money on themselves now
yeah,
in personal lives, like medical insurances,
yeah.
travel, spending more time. There was a recent article where I was reading that the the new gen fathers are spending 30% more time with their
With their
kids
kids.
than
Yeah,
their fathers spent
yeah,
with. Like it's like data, right? And
yeah.
who are these Gen Z? These are the people who are sitting in, who are coming into the offices. So
Of
if they're
course.
spending 30% more time, which means they're away from offices, right?
Yeah,
So then therefore the workplaces have to be very different to get them back to
absolutely.
work.
Yeah.
So I think one thing is very clear, that the office is always going to remain. Like that question around, can
Completely
we work
remote.
hybrid? Can we be remote? I don't think that works.
Yeah,
Everybody needs, the workplace is much more than just a desk
yeah,
and and a building. It's the it's the place where you just not work, you socialize, you build
yeah,
friends, you spend most of your time, you want to enjoy that time. So yes, everything has changed. One most important change that COVID like really brought about is the acceptance of the role that workplace leaders, facility management, corporate services leaders, and uh, chief security officers and security leaders play in organizations.
yeah,
I'd say pre-COVID, these roles were good to have roles, very, very important roles earlier as well. but and they were obviously appreciated also. However, COVID, I think, created the realization that we cannot do without these roles. Like, they cannot be looked as cost centers, that whenever there is a round of discussion on cutting costs, admin and security are the first people to be cut out,
Yeah,
right? These have become critical roles, like, because there are going to be tough times, and everybody has figured out that this is the lot that is going to stand up to the tough times. Like, uh, there's a saying, there's a folklore that says that, and I'll say this in Hindi, ki फौज की याद सिर्फ लड़ाई के वक्त आती है. The country only appreciates the military when there is a war,
that's true. Yeah,
right? Probably this was that war where, the it is this function of workplace FM and security stood as the army, which really stood between the crisis and the rest of the organizations.
yeah,
So I think that huge shift of mentality has happened, and which has worked in favor of our industry. I would say,
yeah,
like, this is the best time to be in this industry.
yeah,
The CXOs, the CEOs, leaderships are talking to us much more than they used to. We have a seat at the table.
yeah,
We are part of critical decisions. We help in looking at strategy, giving suggestions.
yes.
So, like I'd say, this is the best time. Like, we couldn't have asked for a better time. Like, if there's any youngster listening to us and evaluating, should I, join a facility management or a security role? Yeah, I'd say there was never a better time.
Wow. So you talked about having a seat at the table. You talked about the power of workplace warriors today, and you talked about how other functions are, I think, giving the due credit to facility as a function overall. Well, more power to you. And of course, I'm also seeing that trend, and it's a great one, I must say. And I think it should have come much earlier, but now that it has, there are a lot of other implications involved as well. And there is a question that I do have because whenever we as Veris are interacting with workplace leaders, now workplace leaders, it's a large term. It comprises of multiple functions because there is security, there is administration, sometimes there is also HR, there is facilities. If technology is involved, then of course there is the IT function as well. Now, all of these functions essentially have different mandates, and they work with their siloed mandates. And what we've come to realize is that while everybody expects an experience which is very well integrated across these functions, because all these leaders have to come on the table to maybe deploy something, or if it is technology, then deploy, or if it is a process, then even the process needs to be deployed in a very, very synced up manner, which needs, of course, a go ahead from all these entire functions. Now, within urban company, how do you do that? Like, how is this cohesion amongst teams maintained, and how is the future mapped out, that hey, this is where we want to arrive, and these are the functions that is required, and this is going to be our plan to action, and so on and so forth. How do you map that as a leader?
So at Urban Company, life's a little easier for us because many of the functions that you speak about report into me. So
Oh,
the
wonderful.
facility management, the trust and safety, which
Yeah,
also includes corporate security,
yeah,
and the IT infrastructure and the real estate. So these multiple functions, which usually in bigger companies have independent heads and run as independent functions because
yeah,
of the function of the size that they are. But here they all roll up to me, so decision making is much easier. But I'd say a very relevant problem, and I can very well imagine on, every function head having his own vision about a certain implementation,
yeah,
and then finally, not aligning to a certain way of thought, right?
yeah,
And then obviously then there is HR out here. HR is an independent function also. I think the best way of, getting outcomes of from the situation is have your mission statement very, very clear. Like,
yeah,
as simple as, do you want to have a seamless workplace experience for your staff,
yeah,
and do is it a priority for you?
yeah,
If this is a priority for an organization, and all the function heads are aligned to that priority from top leadership, then it works backwards from there. Like,
yeah,
if we are clear, we want to create a seamless workplace experience for our staff. And that's a priority. So there is so much available in the market.
Yeah.
And yes, and you're very right. There'll be multiple functions involved. There'll be like a security head who will assess the access control from his perspective. Then there'll be the IT lead who will have a lot of questions around the data
Yeah.
and the implementation. Then obviously there'll be HR on how
Experience
access
side
is
of things.
given, taken back, the entire process of
Yeah.
granting and taking away access. So multiple people's, yes, do have to coordinate, and it, yes, can get challenging. So far at UC, like I said, it's
Oh.
worked fairly well. The
That's
collaborations have
that's
worked
a great
fairly well.
coordinated effort that you are leading. So of course, kudos to you, because unfortunately, a lot of companies we're seeing do not have that, and that is definitely coming up as a problem statement. Because as you rightly said, if there is a mandate from the top, and you also talked about we having a seat at the table, right? A lot of places we're seeing, while they want the overall endpoint is what they want, they would want to probably make the workplace more Gen Z and millennial ready, but the mandate is not so clear, and it's not, unfortunately, divided into functions. Now, given there's no one function available, it somewhere drizzles out, which is why decisions are not taken, so on and so forth. That happens. So when you said having a seat at the table, I want to understand from your perspective, and also given you do interact with a lot of industry peers, we know that you are definitely interacting and speaking at a lot of events. Do you think that workplace experience is not just workplace experience, overall people experience within workplaces or workplace management or enhancement of the overall workplace or making it a modern workplace, is it a boardroom conversation today or not?
Very much. I think it is a very, very important topic, and it will continue to be like year on year. As we create our annual operating plans, our budgets on investments, it's just not going to be our regular operating expenses. It's also going to be the investments we make on how we improvise and improve our infrastructure year on year. So it is, I would say, I've mostly the interactions I've had with everybody, with most of industry peers and colleagues, this is a place where everybody wants to continue to invest. Yes, you know real cost saving is another important topic that everybody talks about, and it's not that there is enough available to just splurge on what you want. There has to be a significant value that any investment, and especially workplace investment, is a certain value that you might not be able to monetize and show ROI very, very quickly,
Yeah.
right? And I think probably this is where the ball drops. The
Yeah.
investments I make on making my space more trendy, my space more inviting to staff, bring in better furniture, improve the lighting, I might never be able to monetize the ROI and show it back to the
Yeah.
org or the leaders and say this is the ROI. I think
Yeah.
it's more I'd say a cultural call that you have to take, and the hunch that you go by, that
Yeah.
there is a direction from the top that yes, we are a company which has a culture of creating good space for our employees, and
Yeah.
then you go backwards and you start these investments. So there has to be this confidence and this trust between the leadership and the functional heads like me, that yes, you want to do it, I will make it happen. These are the things that we will do, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You map the success of such initiatives, though, say like a net promoter score or a feedback score from the employees on how is it, even if it's qualitative in nature, the way they're feeling about the office, the pulse. Is that an action?
Yes, yes, yes. In fact, we do a lot of, at UC, we do regular pulse surveys
Yeah.
quarterly, then there's a 6 monthly, and then there's an annual pulse survey, and there's a lot of uh, questions and data we try and collect about the softer aspects
Yeah.
of people, how are they feeling at work, to basically gauge on the overall mood.
Yeah.
And I can actually share with you, there's a question that we ask in our pulse survey is, do you have a best friend at work?
Yeah,
Right? And that's a very good, important indicator for us on how many people, are really enjoying their time at work
that's true.
and at the workplace, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is. This is like pulse surveys are definitely important indicators, and
Mm.
perhaps right now the only indicator that you will have, and the
Yeah,
second
as an
indicator is
ROI to
how many
do the
people are
investment that is
actually
made.
coming into office after you do these investments.
That's
So
true.
your the data you get from your access controls on occupancy is going to be another indicator.
Yeah, yeah, that's correct. So, you talked about what people want, and giving the trend, the change, even in the global workforce. I think by 2030, nearly 70% of the global workforce is going to be Gen Zs and millennials, and this population works on demand, right? Because they need food. They have Swiggy, Zomato, Talabat. If they want, a cab, there is Uber. There's so everything they need is on demand at their home. Their preferences are remembered. Even like a Swiggy would remember which coffee they like, right? And then they come to the workplace, and the workplace is very, very different. You need a cab, you have to mail. So the kind of service interactions they have in offices are very different than to what they have at home. And then COVID gave them the luxury to work from home. So I think overall the expectation set has changed, and of course that can be translated into the workplace, but that would need technology and a lot of other deployments. And when we talk about technology, I want to understand, given you also have a lot of gig workers into your workforce, right? Over 50,000 of them, as we now know. What role do you see technology playing in enabling questions? Yeah, yeah, please let me know what are your thoughts.
So it's technology's role is undisputed. Like we are a tech company. Urban Company is a new age tech company. So we uh, recognize ourselves as a tech company. So therefore, everything we do is based around tech, right? I think every problem that we try to solve at scale has to be solved through tech. So these 50,000 gig workers, by the way, don't use our offices or they
Yes.
are independent contractors. But however, they are continuously connected to our tech through the app on which they get onboarded. The request that they have to accept for a certain job is sent to them. All the security and controls, quality controls and checks that we have to put on the fulfillment of the job is done via tech
Yeah.
because the scale is significantly high and growing. Therefore, any problem that we face, and we being a very very ops heavy business, like
Yeah.
on an average we do 75 to 80,000 deliveries a day in India, which means so many people entering homes of customers every day. There are significant amount of challenges that
Mhm.
come up, and it is through the learning of every challenge that's thrown to us that we try and solve these challenges through tech, because at this scale manual interventions are not helpful at all, right? Everything has to be, the product team, the our tech, the engineers, as well as the business and the related functions, like my function, which is trust and safety, which does throw up a lot of problems to the product and tech teams around various risks, that come up during the jobs that we do. So solutions are always kind of looked at through tech. We solve it through tech. So there is nothing that I think we are going to be able to solve manually.
Yeah, and so adopting technology is also now a mandate
Yeah,
in UC and other
yeah,
companies that you speak to.
exactly. As simple as I'll share a real example with you. We we have offices in 50 odd cities across India. And these offices are used for our partners, which are really training centers,
Mm.
partners walking in and getting trained. So, uh, so far, for the longest time, we used to maintain attendance of people walking into offices manually. The guards used to enter the names, in a register just to give us a view on how many people have come. So, therefore, even the attendance of visitors plus the attendance of people doing training has now been digitized,
I
and
see.
we now have real time data available on how many people, which category are in which office, which helps solve a lot of problems for us. The pipeline of supply is visible, the accurate numbers are available, who is from which category is available. So
Yeah.
it tech just solves the problems at scale.
True, true. Wonderful. So, Gaurav, we've talked about a lot of things actually. We've talked about gig workers, we've talked about technology, we've talked about COVID. Now, coming to the last segment, and this is something that I would want to bring back from the event. And that day, you had a very, very powerful line, which I think was it on the tunes of empower, not enforce. Something like that is what you said. And I think a lot of people kept talking about it that day. I want to know why that. So now of course, people have come back to the office in one way or the other, and you're seeing a change in perception, in the way they're dealing with the workplace, and the things they're wanting from the workplace. With examples, could you elaborate on why did you say what you said that day, and how does UC truly believe in it, and are you seeing it make a difference?
Yeah. Yeah. So, see, I think the workforce that we have, like in UC, I think the average age of our staff would be 25, 26,
Yeah.
right? So that's the, age limit, the, the range of
Wow.
folks, young folks, right? I am like not even 40, but I am one of the oldest people. So
It's the
I'm
story of our
an
lives.
old man walking around, the offices in UC. So it's important, very, very important to be able to understand what this workforce thinks. And the way they think is significantly different to even what I think, right? And what 15 years older people think. Like that age of hunter and gatherer is gone. That
Yeah.
age of an employee signing up to an organization and retiring from there is gone. That age of people only working for money, that if I'm getting paid well, I will do anything for this
Yeah.
organization, is gone. Like the the new workforce does not believe in the concept that we believed in.
Yeah.
And the faster we accept it, the better for
The-
us. So I think the firstly the acceptance that it's important to accept this mindset as the relevant changes in our policies, the way we communicate with the staff, the way we encourage them to come and work from the office. Like I said last time also, like you cannot enforce anything anymore. Like you
That's
will
true.
have to just encourage and create the right environment that people will buy into this and voluntarily come into office and work and enjoy coming back to office. You
Yeah.
cannot force people anymore, like that.
Yeah.
An example, just today's, like we've just come back from the new year kind of leave 2 days back. So last 2 3 days I'm like a typical Fauji, reaching office very
On
much on
time.
time, plus minus 15 20 minutes, and I'm like that. And I've been noticing for the last couple of days that many of my team members are walking in fairly easy many hours later than the usual time.
Yeah.
If it was me 4 years back, it would have been a straight, harshly worded message sent to all my team members that
Yeah.
if I can come on time, why can't you come on time?
Absolutely.
But I didn't send that, right? Because I know this message is not going to land, and it's not going to have the right impact, and it's not eventually going to give me the outcome I need. So therefore, it has to be a better way of sending this communication,
Yeah.
a softly worded conversation with specific people who can help. what do you call, send the message down, and let them understand why it's important to come on time, right?
Yeah.
Versus just sending out a mandate.
Yeah. So it's a very stark difference from the other news headlines that we've been reading lately, where people are being asked, and I think a lot of leaders are saying that work more number of hours. This is what we did. This is. So I'm seeing a very different and fresh perspective coming out from you. And one more freshness that I saw from UC was the new offices that you all have recently launched. I saw the pictures and quite a lot of common spaces, huddle spaces, breakout zones is what I saw. Was there a specific thought behind that? Was it a pre-COVID, post-COVID thing, or were you in lines of thinking about it pre-COVID as well?
Yeah, no, I think the change was definitely, post COVID, the time that we are spending in designing our offices, and what all should we have to make space more fun, and just so that people feel at home, as simple as that. If he's working 2 days at home, 3 days in office, the 3 days also he should feel it's good, I enjoy going to work. So then you have to give him that kind of environment, right? Like most of the bigger offices, the top 3 4 offices we have in India, for example, have open terraces. Like typically our homes will have a balcony or terrace. Like we have open terraces which lounge space,
Yeah,
where a person can actually uh, in our office in Gurgaon, like you don't need to be sitting at your desk. You can be sitting for the entire day in a collaboration area or the terrace or the cafe, and you can work from there. Like the infra enablement throughout the office is equal. Like I will provide you the same bandwidth of Wi-Fi sitting at the terrace, which means I'm okay with you sitting at the terrace
yeah,
and working from there.
yeah, yeah. Are
You
you
can,
seeing an impact on talent retention or talent
yes,
attraction as well on this?
definitely, yes, yeah.
Very interesting.
People
So,
should enjoy, right? People should enjoy the time. Like if you're making good friends in office, then you need a certain space. Like you won't make a good friend at your desk.
yeah,
You want to break out over a cup of coffee, have a conversation beyond just work. So for that, then you definitely need a certain setting, and that
yeah,
setting cannot be a desk. It has to be next to like a nice plant, a couch, a casual seating, even the way you sit and have a conversation. Like you can't be
yeah,
sitting straight all the time as if you're giving an interview, right? Because it's so
yeah,
formal. The way you
yeah.
sit, your thoughts work that ways, right?
Wow. So I think UC has the full potential to be a future forward case study. And a lot of things we took back from you. Definitely number one is encourage, not enforce. Make them feel at home. Having a seat at the table for the workplace warriors that we talk about. So a lot that we learned today. Thank you so much, Gaurav. I'm sure the listeners loved it, and thank you for being so candid, first of all. Definitely, I would promote the case study of UC everywhere I go and talk, and I hope there are more like you and more like UC across, because definitely the world is changing. We are changing, technology is changing, adoption is changing, expectations are changing. So a lot is changing, and I think most companies need to keep up with it. Otherwise, they do uh, risk definitely their talent. So yeah, this is what I'd want to leave at. Thank you so much again. Love to talk to you, and a lot to take back.
Thank you so much, Asta. It was lovely talking to you as always. And yeah, I really enjoyed the conversation. And like you said, I am usually very, very candid and open about what I speak.
I'm sure going to come and visit your office and one of your terraces soon.
Yes, you're
Thank
most
you.
welcome to come to the Gurgaon office.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Asta.